Let's talk about why coaching. So, I've got some thoughts on why coaching, and sometimes people just assume that it's obvious. In general, it helps people uncover blind spots, it helps people increase self awareness. I think there's a number of things that you can get out of coaching or really interaction with humans in general. It's hard to do on your own. People talk about rubber ducky coaching, where you just talk to the rubber ducky. And that's cool. There's just something about when you talk to an actual person and you go to say something and you realize, oh, I don't know how to articulate that. Right. And then you think about it and then you realize how to articulate it. Or, oh, I don't feel comfortable saying that. Or actually, it doesn't make sense. It's just sort of like something that happens when you interact with another person. I think when it comes to Agile and using Agile as an example, one of the reasons that coaching is so helpful within an Agile environment is there's just so many changes that people go through. And I think as evidence, if it was just a matter of taking a course on Agile or Scrum or SAFe or whatever, people would take the course and then they'd be done. There would be no need for anybody to come in and help out. It'd be done. But I think there's so much change, mindset change, how you work, who you work with, that having a coach involved to help you think it through, overcome any obstacles, any sort of hesitation that you have, understand even why are you hesitating? Why is it you don't want to do this thing that supposedly is good for you?
I think any change, and we're using Agile as an example, any change requires some awareness, and coaching can provide that awareness by asking questions, listening, providing that space for the person to think things through and find out why are they hesitating. Maybe there are some blockers or things that are getting in the way, or it's against something that they value. In essence, Agile is about different set of values from a traditional way of working that could also be at odds with what people or organizations or teams value.
People have habits like that dreaded thing. That's the way we've always done it. Finding those habits and breaking them. Linking it to something people are familiar with is often helpful. And it's not exactly the same, but when you're deciding, where to go to school, if you're going to go to school, who to be in a relationship with, who to get out of a relationship with, whether to get married or not, buy a house, where you're going to live, what job, what career, usually those big things, people will want to talk to somebody about it. And hopefully somebody that listens well, is really there and paying attention, ask questions that are insightful, they're not leading you down a path. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to find people with all of those qualities in the same person?
Big decisions, they require thinking through, reflection. And so having a coach or coaching can do that. Even decisions like what am I going to have for lunch sometimes. It's a small decision, but we probably do this in the back, of our mind, like, what am I in the mood for? Why am why this and not that? Maybe this is I want to try something new or different this time, a different recipe that I have never had before. If we step back and think about how we decide on things, sometimes we ask ourselves some coaching questions.
What is it I'm really looking to achieve here? Why is this so hard for me? All kinds of things that can help you get there. It's useful to reach out to a friend. And if you're thinking, who am I going to reach out to? You're more likely to reach out to somebody that isn't trying to tell you like, oh, just go for it, or oh, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. And you're like, oh, this isn't actually helping me. Part of, the value of coaching is you've got somebody that's trained to do all of those things that you're looking for. Somebody that listens, is really paying attention, asks insightful questions, helps you think it through, will just listen to you as opposed to interrupting you or changing the topic. It's actually quite a list of capabilities that are generally not found in one person unless they've been trained for that. It's hard enough making a life choice or figuring out what you want to do in some situation that requires a change of habit or a change of a way of thinking. But then if you think of it as part of a team or part of an organization, that the team has to collectively decide we want to go in this direction, or the organization does, it makes it all that much harder. And so applying those coaching skills for teams and organizations is a
Yeah.
very useful skill set as well.
Think of a person trying to decide on what to have for lunch and versus a group
Huh.
deciding on Where to go for?
Oh, I need to go to a place that, has at least chicken or pork or something, right? I'm a meat eater. I
Yeah.
need something like that. Or, I've got a sweet tooth today and I want to have a dessert afterwards. I need a place that has good desserts. And somebody else says, oh, well, there's a place with great desserts, but they don't have meat. Or they have meat, but they don't have any vegan options, or, whatever it is. That's a great
Yeah.
example.
It definitely increases the complexity and how we want to decide as a group rather than just someone deciding for the whole group. I mean, these are obviously the lunch is a small decision or example. If a group can't agree on lunch or it takes them a while to decide on where to go for lunch, imagine a situation where they're trying to change the way they work. How are they going to decide on that if, without having these conversations?
I think a very coaching way to work with a new team and launch them in Agile, something I like to do, but sometimes the people that bring me in are kind of like, why would you give them the choice? They'll make bad choices, is just to say, hey, here's what's possible. Here's what a stand-up is like. Here's what a retro is like. What would you as a team want to do that you agree on, and just taking them through that. And they, some people say, oh, I want to have that daily meeting every day, and some people say, well, what if we just did it 3 times a week? And some people say, oh, I want to do the retro and I want a sprint length of 2 weeks, but let's do the retro every week. And it's amazing, if you let a group of people decide on their own, they'll generally pick a lot of the stuff that you would want them to do, but then they've picked it instead of, being told what to do. And that can be very powerful. But thinking in that way as a coach actually is really hard to do. There's a lot to unlearn. That's the value of learning. So I think we've covered not only the value of coaching, but the value of learning more about coaching.